During my YouTube live video on Tuesday, I did cover Bepro price action. I told you how I expected it to move or what to focus on the very small candles specific to the weekly 10 EMA. Now that more price action has happened, let's go back and see some snippets of what I said during that analysis, and then let's look at what has happened now and then reassess. Let's get after it. Is that the price of almost everything is either approaching the weekly 10 or just now getting above. That is what's going to be happening on everything, and it can be essentially like your cheat code. If you see it, let's go down to the 5-minute chart. Keep on that weekly 10 EMA. This is a nice big run. Has it built up some form of support base here? It has not. So the higher and higher this goes, the more, likely that it needs to come back down and use this as support before it can continue the run. Could this go a lot higher before it comes back down? Yeah. And if it does go to something like to 0.004 or whatever, let's say if it goes up a little higher, then when it corrects down, it'll go a bit under the weekly 10. It'll have to battle its way up. So it's actually a little healthier if it doesn't go too much higher. It would be better if it starts going sideways here. But you can use this essentially as your cheat code. Is this run going to sustain itself? 5-minute candles count. This was the battle line, trying to get above the weekly 10. Wick above, couldn't close above. How high could this go? Let's throw in some other EMAs. Let me see where the weekly 21 is. Weekly 21's way up there. Ooh, this really fell. This could have a pretty big run. This one could go straight up, but it's going to come straight back down to hit that weekly 10. Or it could do something like this and wait on it. Either or. So I guess but it'll very likely come back down to test the 10. But if it really does scream up that high, it might do this. It might wait on the weekly 10 instead. That's a little less common of a way. Usually if you go up really fast, you'll come down real fast to touch it, but it could sit here and ride and wait for it to catch up, find some type of stability here. Take this moment to give me a quick thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check out the Discord community within the description section, follow me on Twitter at @𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐻𝙑𝙗 with the number 2 afterward, and if online community is not your thing, but you want exclusive content above and beyond what I offer on YouTube, click the join button right below this video, another video will pop up describing your options to you. We're zoomed out on the 1-hour chart on Bepro right now, just after Bepro formed a swooping bottom type of range, very healthy way to dig itself out, assuming Bitcoin doesn't ruin the party. It's meeting the weekly 10, which is this red line, as its resistance for how many times in a row now has it met it as resistance? 1, 2-ish, 3-ish, 4, 5, 6 time. It looks like this might want to stay above it. Since my analysis yesterday, let's dive into the 5-minute chart and see how it's interacting. Right now, it didn't actually spike too much over it. Right, only 6% above, but here's the problem. Remember, this is kind of your cheat code. Well, how are the candles reacting to the weekly 10? Did it use it as support as it fell down? No, it didn't. It didn't try to use it as support and then fall. It hasn't used it as support even one bit. Let's zoom really far into this area. Look, it didn't even try to use this as support. And now, when it came back up after this fall, it used it as resistance. It's only being used as resistance, which really would make me suggest that Bepro price is going to need to do one of two things. It's going to need to accumulate under the weekly 10 EMA and move sideways, but that's a little less common. What I think is more common is it'll want to try a little lower first, regroup, and then try coming up to the weekly 10 with a little bit more power for having formed a higher low. So let's go over those two cases, and that's our Bepro analysis. Let's get it. Now that we know on the 5-minute chart, this is only being used as resistance. This is the weekly 10. I drew this line during a live chat. I was guessing how high it would go, where I would put some limit sales for them, and it honestly did not work out that badly because this line was not here during the YouTube live, so we need to delete that. I think somebody said, "Hey, I'm in Bepro. Where should I put my limit sales?" That's where we did it. That'd be the benefit of being in the Discord community. You can literally come right on and ask me, "Hey, what would you do? This is my position," or whatever. So anyway, 1-hour chart. Typically, when you make higher lows, my favorite way to do this is take your recent low area, which honestly, I might have to use a bigger chart. There are a lot of higher lows there. There we go, 4-hour chart. I like to view this and say, hey, this is really all aggressive. From this point here, I don't see any non-aggressive higher lows, but these are all higher lows. It's really good, right? But it got too hot. And the way I would view this, and I'll leave this on my chart. So for next week's Bepro analysis, you'll see this is probably it has a very strong likelihood to be a hit. Bepro price could go sideways along this weekly 10 for a while, just dip into here and then charge above. But either way, I think it will hit this projector tool. If Bepro price comes down harder and faster, it could hit this projector tool, maybe dip a little lower in it, but I think it could form a higher low somewhere within this projector tool. And again, there are a couple ways to do that. So the two ways that I talked about earlier, remember, consolidate a little under this, a little bit lower as this red line keeps coming lower and lower and lower, hits the projector tool, then powers up, right? That's one way, but it still hits the projector tool. Or way number 2, which is more common, especially for small alts, kind of like just very fast price action to the downside. You could even take a fractal of this. This is a pretty common way for it to do it. And I would take a fractal from that point to this point, maybe make a higher low, shrink it up a little bit, something to, if I could learn how to use TradingView, something like that. That would be a more common way. And then if Bitcoin is doing anything that is, not weak at that time, if it were to come down faster to hit this 45-degree angle from the bottom, then I would expect Bepro to race back up to the weekly 10, consolidate under, and then give it a try again. Or if this is truly going to be a higher low, another thing that could happen after that is a way can get above the weekly 10, which I will make red as I'm extending it. Another way it could get above is it can make a higher low here, go above the weekly 10, then use it as support, which it has failed to do. So that's two ways that can happen. So if Bitcoin is strong at the time this happens of the higher low, and again, remember, that's the preface. If Bitcoin's weak, this shit ain't happening, right? It's going to keep going down. Very clear with this. But I assume on the weekly scale, I don't think Bitcoin's ready to spill over. So I think this is the more probable case, but I want to make that part very clear. You have to keep your eye on the ball, and the ball is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is your main indicator. I can't stress that enough. Anyway, if it were to bounce here, another way it could come up is have trouble at the weekly 10, something like that. Maybe dip into that triangle one more time, then go boom. Something like that. I will make it a different color so we can see the two different ways that I think it would go down. This is one way to fall. The second way to fall would be slower. Come in here. And these are the two ways I think it could go up above the weekly 10 should the faster approach to the 45-degree angle higher low, which is the most common type of higher low in all of crypto. It's just very, very repetitive, especially after an aggressive trading channel. Then you come form that 45-degree low. These are the I guess 3 of 4 things I want you to know. The only thing missing is the slower way that it could fall into this projector tool, something like this, before it would then get above. That's the only thing you're not really viewing, but I think this is the most important stuff to know. But remember, no matter what, that red line, the weekly 10, being on small candles, even if it's 5 minutes, and during bull markets, I tell people get off the lower time frames, right? Just get off of them, because you always think, oh, like this is going back up, or whatever. Even though it's falling with style, it's not as healthy. But during choppy times and during times of trying to get over the most important, like one indicator out of anything in like any price analysis, like of oil, in my opinion, is the weekly 10. So I think you have extra reason to really microscopically view price and its candles on lower time frames. And it's not like you need my permission to use lower time frames. That's not what I'm saying. However, I think it is very advantageous to use them at moments like this, particularly when you're not in a bull market. And again, that's the most important thing. Study, regardless of my analysis, the most useful thing, put on that MTF indicator. Just type it into the indicator, MTF EMA, MTF space EMA. Put on it the weekly 10 and put it on something like the 15-minute or whatever small time frame you like the best. Keep an eye on how it's interacting with that weekly 10, and it's going to give you the best the best personal analysis on yours, and that's the most important thing to remember. If you like this content, you can watch this Bitcoin analysis right here. It could save a life in terms of being mid-term bearish, although I'm short-term time frame bullish. And if you want to see these signs of hopium play out on Bitcoin, click this video right here. You just got Timified worldwide. Live long and prosper.